this case, like we're doing a mini series, obviously, on family annihilators. This one's a little bit different because, number one, the fame around Amityville. I mean, if people hear that word, they instantly think of the movie, both of them.
Everybody knows Amityville.
Right. And, but also the family annihilator killed his parents and his siblings versus, a husband killing off his kids and wife. But I feel pretty stupid where this case is concerned, because let me tell you, I had no idea that the movie was based on an actual murder or murders that occurred in the house. I had no idea. I just thought it was a haunted house.
When did you find out?
I found out just a few weeks ago when I was listening to Crime Junkie.
Oh, you didn't know it was real till a few weeks ago?
No. Now, I knew Amityville Horror, the movie, which was released in 1979, was based on true events, but I didn't know that there was actually a family annihilation that occurred in that house before the Lutzes moved in. I had no idea. Wow. So that was kind of interesting. And I guess like in the movie, I thought it was a fictional movie based on true events. And I was a teenager when I saw it. I think like maybe at 13 or so. So I never connected that there was a real murder. But I can tell you that I was traumatized by that movie.
Really?
That was a scary movie.
I was traumatized. And I probably saw a rerun because obviously I didn't see it when I was 6. But so let me show you. I was so traumatized by it that, at the time I lived in Odessa, Texas, and Dad was on the road. And so it was me and Shirley, and we lived in a trailer house, and we were eating dinner, and a song by Alabama, remember that band?
Yeah.
Came on.
Yeah.
And I got chills because the singer, that lead singer, Randy Owen, reminded me of the guy that played Mr. Lusk. So let me show you. So we're eating, we're eating. Look.
Yeah, he does look like James Brolin for just the hair and beard.
He does.
And I think I had recently watched the movie, so I was already freaked out, and then I hear "Love a Rainy Night," and so I look at the TV and I'm like, oh my gosh, he looks like the Amityville Horror guy. And I think, and then like, what's up with these people and beards? So that's a guy that is the real Lusk.
Right. Which he looks like James Brolin for sure.
And then here's the guy that killed him.
Oh my gosh.
And then there he is again. So I'm like, what the heck is up with the beards, people?
Era.
Yeah, it was the era.
Oh my gosh. So
that is creepy.
Right. So I've never listened to another Alabama song since then.
Really?
I like Alabama.
I always thought the lead singer was very handsome. But that's my history.
So are you saying visit not to play Alabama? Because I was in my mind thinking I would now.
I think we should anyway.
Right.
I've grown as a person.
I have not. So obviously I want to play it.
So I feel I'll be fine. You play Alabama all you want.
All right.
Okay.
You heard her.
So that is the example of how much that movie freaked me out.
That's strange. Because there were worse movies. Exorcist.
I never watched that.
It was lame.
That sort of freaked me out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Dad said when they watched it, because I guess he went with Sissy to watch it in the movie theater, people literally lost their mind in the movie.
No, he went with me while I was pregnant, and your grandmother chewed him out.
Oh, was it you?
Yes.
That's probably why I am the way I am.
Right. I was pregnant, and your grandmother really.
Thank you.
got on to him.
I appreciate you guys considering me in the womb.
Well, I didn't even know what movie. He just said, "Let's go to the movie." Okay.
And he said of all the movies he's ever watched, that one scared him. And I think it's when it's based on true events, I think that like gets in your head. But I also think we all know some of this stuff is real. If you don't think there's, another world out there, you're
Naive.
connected.
You're naive.
To me. So, okay. So this is crazy. I just had to show you because to me, Randy Owen just looked, like the guy that lived there. Now, did y'all know when y'all watched it that it was based on DeFeo murdering his family?
Yes, I did.
I don't remember. I watched it when I was really little.
So is what you're doing, Mom? Just like you took me in your womb to see
her and Dad. I watched the most vivid one I remember, total dark in the apartment, watching the guy with the
Freddy Krueger.
Who?
What were you, 3?
I think so. It was either 3 or 5.
Wow.
Well, no, that was at my dad's, but both of y'all would, there was like no, horror movies, thrillers. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it was a different time.
No, it wasn't. Okay.
I watched all the scary ones, but I don't remember knowing if that was real or not.
So the house on Amityville looks like it's smiling, 2 eyes and a.
Yes,
yeah, they redid it. Is it? Did they put it down? Or?
And we'll see pictures of the house today. They even had to change the address, and we'll get into all that. But I wanted to give some background on the village of Amityville because, as I started doing these, because obviously we're going to go through the family annihilator aspect of Ronald DeFeo Jr. And we'll get into some of the creepy stuff later in the Lutz. But I thought, I wonder, because when I started doing these family annihilator cases, I started seeing a pattern of how negatively it impacted the city.
Yeah.
It like completely changed the city, where when you think of that murder, you think of that city, or when you think of that city, you think of that murder.
Well, don't you think that though, in most cases, even today?
Of just anything.
Yeah, anything horrific.
Well, you can hear of people that are murdered. We've had murders here in Clovis, some that are still unsolved. But when it comes to stuff like horrific crime or serial killers or family annihilation, it's like it puts that on that town forever. Like if you go to historic sites to this day, what are they known for? They're known for what happened there. And
you think of Bundy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always think of Bundy when I hear Seattle.
Right.
I don't. I think his music, the grunge music. That's where a lot of the bands came out of.
Well,
and Rain.
Yes, Rain and Rainy Night.
I don't think
there's something with Alabama. You know what I mean?
Oh,
okay, so Alabama and Amityville, Rain and Rainy Night, killers.
Rainy Night is from Eddie Rabbit.
That's funny.
They look like too.
Eddie Rabbit looks like the killers too. So is it Alabama or should I play Eddie Rabbit?
I think
if it's I Love a Rainy Night, it needs to be Eddie Rabbit.
I got you.
I'm gonna look up Eddie Rabbit.
It looks like him too. Yeah, it looks just like him.
Dark.
Beards were in.
That's him.
Yeah.
But still, Alabama dude looks like him too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, what is up? Okay, let me share my screen. Oh, I had in my head this whole time that it was.
It looks just like him. Mm-hmm.
That it was Alabama. That's funny.
Look at that one.
Look at that smile. Oh goodness! Wow. Yes, it was Eddie Rabbit. Mm-hmm.
Not Alabama.
Not Alabama. So make sure you have some Eddie Rabbit, okay?
It was Alabama.
She wasn't listening to either, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. So Amityville is a small village in Suffolk County, New York. It's within this is crazy, the geographical boundaries of Babylon, New York.
Oh.
That's where Lance Wallnau worked before he went into ministry. I think that's funny. But they are incorporated. They have their own local police force, fire department, and public works. It's called to this day the Friendly Bay Village. And it was primarily a farming community with strong ties, and I'm quoting, to the fishing and boating industries. Those slowly gave way to summer visitors, theater personalities, businessmen, artists, writers, and the rich and famous of Manhattan. And they would go to Amityville in the summers for the cool breezes and beaches. It's an affluent community with about 9,500 residents, mostly age 45 and older. So you can imagine how horrified I'm sure this community was, number one, and how irritating it probably still is to this day that's tied to this this family annihilation.
They still have tourists too that go there.
Yep.
Hundreds of hundreds.
Yep. And then the relief of the
in there, I wouldn't.
the new Amityville Horror with, is it Reynolds, I think? Yeah,
last
that's the new one. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know they did a new one.
You mean new recent or new?
Recent. Mm-hmm. And so they redid the movie, and it's just increased the tourists and the interest again.
Okay.
So I did a Google search to learn a little bit more about them, and it's really pretty. Like if you pull it up, it's a really pretty town. However, when you bring up the city, most of the photos that come up are of 112 Ocean Avenue and the infamous house in the Amityville Horror. Now, this tiny little 2.5-mile area village is on Long Island. I didn't know that either. Now, before the murders, Ronald Joseph, or Big Ronnie, as they called him, DeFeo Sr. and his wife, Louise, had high hopes for their new home. In fact, they hung a sign out in their front yard that says high hopes.
Oh.
And they had come a long way. Many wondered how Big Ronnie could even afford the house. Again, it's like, we've got
Big house, questionable.
big house. Yep.
I
So
think
this
wasn't he tied to mafia somehow.
there were rumors of that. I'm not sure if that was the case. Now,
They made 17 movies, counting the new one.
wow.
Yeah.
So this is actually, they say this is a house we would see, the front of the house. And this is what it looked like when they were murdered. They were Catholic, so you could see.
Oh.
Okay. But the front of the house was actually on the side. And so this is the side view of it.
I love all the windows.
Mhm.
Love it.
And then this is the floor plan, and you could see where the children were, which we'll get into. And then this was the back of the house where the pool is located. Okay.
Nice house. Yeah.
Super
Nice.
cute.
And I'm trying to find this sign. Oh, here it is. Here's the sign that says High Hopes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So Big Ronnie and Louise got married after a very brief courtship. Her parents did not like him either. They did not approve of them getting married. So they actually cut all ties with the newlyweds. And they did not even attend the funeral.
I think he was very loud.
I mean, I'm sorry, not the funeral, the marriage. Yeah, he was real loud, overbearing, and abusive.
Obnoxious, yeah.
Come to find out.
Yeah.
So they cut all ties with them until Ronald DeFeo Jr. was born. And they called him Butch. So we'll call him Butch so we don't get confused. So Big Ronnie's the dad, Butch is the son. Butch was born September 26, 1952. And they were reading him pretty well, Louise's parents, because he was abusive, especially toward Butch, being the oldest. A lot of people, including family members, witnessed it. 1 minute he'd be hugging Butch, and the next minute he'd throw him across the room.
And everyone just sat there, watched.
Mm-hmm. And so Luis's brother, Michael, witnessed that one time when he was visiting. He said they were all sitting in the basement, which that's kind of where it all started, watching TV when Big Ronnie stood up for no reason. They're just watching TV, and he pushed 2-year-old Butch into the wall for some minor infraction. Butch hit his head and hurt his shoulder in the fracas. This type of behavior can be extremely damaging because you never know when you'll be attacked, especially as a young child.
Right.
So your perspective of the world is developed by the age of 5. And so by the age of 5, to Butch, the world is unsafe. Yeah, and again, I'm not excusing him murdering his family, just setting up the background so we can see how probably, again, a perfect storm's been created here. So he never knew when he was going to be attacked. He probably felt no love from his dad. I'm sure his dad also abused his mom, if I remember correctly, and his other siblings, but he got the brunt of it. Okay.
He didn't abuse the daughter as bad as he did everybody else.
Right. Well, he had 2 daughters, but the oldest daughter, Dawn, also hated his guts.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, not to excuse it, but I'm sure this type of environment definitely affected Butch very deeply. To top it off, Butch was also, quote, extremely overweight as a child. So if Big Ronnie was the type of man I'm thinking he was, that would have bothered him.
Right.
And then even into his teenage years, and then he started using amphetamines and he lost a lot of weight. And I wanted to see like how amphetamines can impact someone, even mentally. It's not good at all. So they are a central nervous system stimulant, or what used to be called uppers. Mom, you're old enough to remember what uppers and downers and how that was a big thing in your time?
It was, but I didn't indulge.
Okay, that's good. They increase energy, focus, confidence, and they can make someone feel euphoric. They used to use them to treat alcohol hangovers. I had no idea. And to help with weight loss. Get this. Today, they're used for hyperactivity in young people and narcolepsy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they weren't all bad.
Well,
Just saying.
my experience, they were.
Just saying.
So I wanted to know about the side effects, especially the mood. How did they impact the mood? So amphetamines are highly addictive, and they can cause mood swings, aggression, paranoia, anxiety, visual, auditory, and tactile hallucinations, and insomnia. And then what's really scary is they actually destroy the pleasure centers in the brain, decreasing a person's ability to feel pleasure without using the drug.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's abused by his father. He's now using amphetamines. And to me, he's like a ticking time bomb. It's just a matter of time before he hurts someone, whether it's his family, someone else, or himself. They had 4 other children after Butch: Don, Allison, Mark, and then later John. So let me pull up. And what's up with all these people named John?
Oh, it's a popular name.
Yeah.
Man, remind me to never name a.
I don't understand how John, though, the nickname for John is Jack. I
Me
never
either.
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay, so there's Butch and Dawn, and then Allison in the middle, and then Mark is right here, and then little John.
And looking at the picture, you couldn't tell they're abused.
No, I wonder though if Allison was eating something blue.
But you know what? No one is like close to him.
No.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, the legs are right here of Mark, and so maybe that's why. But yeah, I couldn't tell anything was weird right there. Okay, now between Mark and John, Louise actually left Big Ronnie.
Oh.
And no one knows for sure why. But to get her back, Big Ronnie actually had a song written for her that was actually a popular song back in the day. So let me go to the link, the YouTube.
Did you leave the kids there with him?
Do what?
Did you leave the kids with him?
I don't know.
Well,
I have no idea. So him and this guy, it was written in 1963, and it was a song called "The Real Thing." And let's see, where's my link? Here it is. And it was co-written by the jazz great Joe Williams And it was a song on his album called One Is a Lonesome Number.
One is
That's Three Dog Night.
Okay, here we go. Listen to the words.
If you are going with her and you can't win, and you're constantly in a spin, if the winter time feels like spring, it's not puppy love, it's the real thing. If you're satisfied just holding her hand.
So basically, I mean, he has his song written, and she goes back, of course.
Right.
I mean, that to me, I don't know, maybe I'm different, but I don't care if you do a whole movie about me if you're a jerk, you know.
Right.
But I can also on the other side see the emotional tie. They've already started a family together, and here he has this famous jazz singer co-write a song for her. So anyway, it worked, and there's some speculation that Louise's father actually helped support their affluent lifestyle, and including the house.
Because of the
And then let me show you this. So he has this song done for her, and then he had these life-size family portraits done, and he commissioned them to be painting. It took over a year to complete, but these are gorgeous. They cost $50,000, and his father-in-law paid for them. That's the equivalent of $336,000 today.
Are you sure that's the painting?
It's the painting. Yeah, and they hung on the wall. And you can see them in crime scene photos. But this is Dawn and Allison. And then this is the wife.
I remember that painting.
She's beautiful. And then here's Mark and little John. I mean, they're very handsome kids. And then this is the one of Big Ronnie and Butch in the painting. No, this is a picture. I'm sorry.
Right.
So I'm not sure if I have one of them. I'm sure there is one of Big John or Big Ronnie and Butch, but I found it kind of interesting that these two are together and the daughters are together. But where, is Butch? Did they even have one of Butch? Let me see. Let me do a quick search.
The daughters look more real than the other ones.
Yeah, it's just incredible how realistic they look. But here is, okay, this is the hallway. Oh, I guess that was of them. That was the painting. So he had Butch and himself together.
Picture.
It looks like that may just be a picture.
No,
They-
it's the painting.
Got that same background as that other painting.
It's the painting. Yeah, that's amazing. So
And that's alcohol? He's
yeah, what a weird painting to have. Looks like a picture was blown up.
no, it's the painting. That's amazing. So obviously, Mrs. DeFeo came from a wealthy family.
Right.
And it appears that Butch's temper mirrored his father's as he aged. So now he's got learned behavior. He's got neurological, pathways of thinking. We do know that everyone was abused, including Louise. But Butch was very angry and violent, and he often got into physical altercations with his father and even his own friends. What I find ironic is that as Butch grew more violent, Big Ronnie and Louise got concerned and tried to get him into counseling.
He was doing what he saw was raised to do.
Right. Like he basically created a monster, and now he's trying to tame the monster. And it's like, well, you helped form this monster. You can't throw a 2-year-old across the room and expect them to be well adjusted. And so Butch didn't think he needed it. So he refused to go. And then they resorted to pacifying him with like expensive gifts and allowance. And then they gave him a job where he didn't really do any work.
It's interesting. The mother didn't see. I mean, she wanted him in counseling because she couldn't understand why he was like he was. I don't understand that.
And I do know, like back in that day, you know, like parenting was definitely not what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is more old school. You definitely got spankings, you know, there could be some strictness and things like that, which I'm sure there is today, but we've definitely swung over to the other side where the kids now run the show, where
Right.
back then, you know, getting slapped or hit or, I mean, that seemed normal. But for this is definitely abuse. I think being slapped or hit is probably abuse too. Spankings, I have no problem with, but this was definitely, you know, abusive. But maybe they just had the mentality of that's how I was raised, you know, like it just passed along. I don't know.
Some are worse than others, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, just like the List family, he killed him on November 9th. This killing actually takes place in November as well. I don't know what's up with November, but on November 13, 1974, several patrons were chatting over beers and mixed drinks at Henry's Bar when suddenly at 6:30 p.m., Butch burst through the door and yelled, "You got to help me. I think my mother and father are shot." Butch's best friend, Bobby Kelsky, was there, and he raced to Butch, who had fallen to his knees. 6 other men, along with Butch and Bobby, raced to the DeFeo residence, and they arrived within seconds because it wasn't very far away because, you know, 2.5-mile long city or village. Bobby opened the unlocked door without any fear that someone might still be in there. The house was quiet except for the family dog, Shaggy, who was tied up to the inside of the kitchen's back door because he wasn't housebroken yet. And then a textbook belonging to one of the younger kids was sitting unopened in the dining room on the table next to some wilting red roses. Bobby led the rest of the men up the stairs to the second floor, which Butch refused to go. He was very familiar with the home because of being a frequent guest. He rushed to the master bedroom, and all of them were immediately overwhelmed by the smell of death. He turned on the light, and he saw Ronald DeFeo, 43, and his wife, Louise, 42, dead. Big Ronnie was mostly on the bed, and I'll show you crime scene photos in a second, face down in his blue boxer shorts with a bullet hole in the center of his back. Then Louise was buried beneath an orange blanket, also on her stomach. Bobby
had one bullet hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Bobby, who was about to pass out, the men guided him downstairs past the beautiful life-size family portraits. And then John Altieri, he was one of the 6 men that was there. He went back upstairs and he checked the northeast bedroom where he discovered the bodies of 2 boys, also face down. And that's where people started getting creeped out. Why is everybody face down in their beds? In one bed was John DeFeo, age 9, and in the other bed was Mark, age 12. All were shot, but where wasn't easily determined at the time. And then the horrible scene just did not fit with the clipper ships, cannons, and eagles on the boys' wallpaper, athletic shoes and toys strewn across the floor, and the crutches and wheelchair that was next to Mark's bed due to a recent football injury. It was surreal. And he had seen all he wanted, so he rejoined everybody downstairs, and they called 911. And then the first officer to arrive was named Kenneth Greguski. He entered the home. He confirmed 2 adults, 2 young males were all shot in their beds, lying face down. He called it in, and then Butch notified him that he also had 2 sisters. So the police officer goes back upstairs, and he found Dawn, age 18, and Allison, age 13, also face down. Okay.
So he made them go face down. So
I'm not sure. That's what I think.
Wonder where he said he was.
Okay, I'm not finding the one with the Mr. DeFeo, so I'll pull that up. But this is one of the girls. And you can see that you can't tell. You know what I mean? So it almost like, to me, I would agree with you in that he made them lay down face down, shot them, and then covered them. Because if you look at, so this is Mark's mattress, and that's his blood stain. And let me pull up, because I thought I had them saved, but I guess not. So okay, here is the one.
Oh yeah.
So you can see the gunshot wound in the dad, but the mother's right here and she's covered.
I can't see it. Oh,
Well, okay. So here he is, and then she's covered over here. And notice the cover, it's almost like he shot his dad, and then before she could move or do anything, he shot her. And then the cover that would have been covering his dad, he just folded over his mom.
Right.
I wonder if the dad was standing up. Looks like he just fell back on the bed.
Right. And then there's one, so this one is of Mark, and you can see his wheelchair and see that he was shot, obviously. So they knew that. Let's see if there's anything else. No, I think that's it. This may have been John's bed right here. So that, started really creeping people out. Why are they all face down? And let me show you. So the house layout, let me get that up for you. Okay, so here's the stairs. Here's the second floor. So John's here, Mark's here with his wheelchair. Then Allison's right here. And Dawn, I don't know why she's not on the picture. And then right across the hallway were his parents. He shot his dad first, then his mom. And if I'm not mistaken, he walked over here and killed John and Mark. Mark wouldn't have been able to do anything because he couldn't walk.
Where was Dawn?
Well, she's supposed to be in this bed right here next to Allison. So I'm not sure why they don't have her in bed. Maybe she had her own room. I thought she was in the same room as Allison, but maybe she was in a totally different room. And that's why. Okay, so 6 detectives arrive by 6:45. So he lets everybody know at 6:30. 15 minutes later, they're going to start interviewing neighbors to see what they heard. News spread fast. Bystanders and cars were all trying to see what was going on. So in the meantime, a detective, Robert Burkhart, showed up, and he started questioning Butch. And Butch explained that he had to break the kitchen window to get in. But when they're sitting in the kitchen, and when Burkhart looks over, the kitchen window is not broken. It's actually open.
Oh.
So that's the first thing,
You're lying.
Right.
Criminals are not always the smartest, let me tell you.
No.
And then I don't know if it was right when he looked over at the window or if later, but sometime that same night, that window crashed down and shattered.
That's crazy.
So obviously this guy's lying, but still it's like maybe trauma, but even in trauma, how would you not know whether you broke the window or opened it?
Right.
Family members started arriving, including Louise's dad, which I cannot imagine. His name's Michael Brigant Sr. He was interviewed in the kitchen area, and he mentioned that Big Ronnie had told him he was getting some suspicious phone calls. And so in order to preserve the scene, police moved the command center from to a nearby home around 7:30, 7:45. And then Butch was taken to the police for a formal interview. Now, at the time, they said he was not a suspect. I'm not sure if I agree with that.
Did he have blood on him?
Not that they could tell.
Huh.
but there's a reason for that. But I mean, what do you think? To me, the police are just knowing how they think. They're going to immediately look at Butch, but they were assuring everybody he's not a suspect.
The window, the only one left.
The detective, I think, right off the bat, probably suspected him.
Yeah. Okay. So they said they didn't at first. I think they're full of it. They always start with the family and then they go out. Okay. So Butch first said that he thought it was a mob hit, and he named a guy named Louis Fellini as the hitman. After he shared his thoughts on who did it, he told detectives that he stayed up late watching TV, but that he couldn't sleep. So he left for work early. He thought everyone was alive when he left. He then said that he'd been trying to get a hold of his family all day. Every single family annihilator or murderer who does not disappear like John List says they tried to call their wife all day. They tried to call their parents all day. It's like, get something different. Like, be the one person that, hey, I just came home from work and found them all dead. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to create this picture of a concerned child or concerned spouse, which to me, because everyone does that, I immediately think guilty.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he went home. He noticed his parents' cars were in the driveway, but no one would answer the door, and he didn't have his house keys with him. So he broke the kitchen window to get in. He went up to his parents' room, found them dead, and he said that he drove back to Henry's bar to get help. And he'd actually been there earlier in the afternoon drinking with his buddies. But things weren't making any sense to the cops. So they went ahead and they put Butch in protective custody just in case there was a mob hit. However, detectives found an empty box of 35 caliber Marlin bullets, the same bullets that killed each victim, in Butch's room.
They're not very bright.
Well, he could have been drunk too.
Right.
I mean, just leave a note saying I killed him, like John List did, people. I mean, come on. Dear John, I still think that's a good book.
Mine's better.
Okay.
My lip.
They didn't find the rifle. And then the autopsies put the time of death at 3:15 a.m., which is an important time, when Butch was at home, according to the statement. Now, at first, the cops were like, man, was the family drugged? Just because they were all face down like that just didn't make any sense to them. But,
and if you heard a gunshot of all the people, you would get up.
Right.
So maybe.
But if you have a gun pointed at you, telling you to get back in bed on your face, or scared little kids, which usually will hide under the covers, then it makes sense. But yeah, no drugs were found in their bloodstream. And what's equally weird is no neighbors heard the 8 gunshots. However, they did hear the dog barking. So I'm wondering if the dog barking like kind of muffled or camouflaged the gunshot.
That's a
But a
big
gunshot,
noise.
yeah, that's a big noise. That's bigger than a dog.
But so is a big dog's bark. I mean, they may have not realized they were hearing gunshots because of dog barking. I'm not sure.
Right.
Well, there's already, some weird stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
It is weird. I think that all of it can be explained so far, but it's definitely, I think it fed into the whole scenario.
I don't know about the window though.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. So confirmed with the facts and that Butch's story wasn't adding up, he confessed. So he said that he started with his parents. He entered the room and he shot his father twice in the back. Within seconds, he turned the rifle on his mother, shooting her twice in the back and the side. He then went into his brother's room and he stood between their 2 beds, and he shot both in their backs. Mark was killed instantly, and little John twitched for a few moments because a bullet, it went through his spinal cord, severing it. He then went into his sister's room. Allison looked up just as he lowered the rifle and shot her in the face. So that sounds to me that she was already on her stomach, and then she looked, he fired, and then he aimed his rifle at Dawn and blew off the left side of her face. He then wiped out his entire family in 15 minutes.
So it sounds like they all just, well, okay. So that's not bam, 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 walk, bam, bam, bam,
No.
bam.
So, I
So
don't-
he had to have took some control, had some issues with some of them.
yeah, because you'd get up and run out. You had to reload a shotgun.
And the fact that they were covered after.
I wonder if he arranged them on their stomachs.
They were all shot in bed. So I personally believe he, with the shotgun, they've already heard it go off, forced them to lay down and not look at him.
Yeah.
It's different rooms. Wouldn't you get up and run away or get
Well,
up?
that's what I'm thinking, but he probably, it's all right there together.
Mhm.
Now, I know like in some of the true crime where there's children involved, they will hide under the covers or they'll get under their bed. Like they will stay in the room.
Right.
And so they may have done that. I think Dawn did get up from some of the photos and things I was looking at. But if the little ones, they may have been so scared they were paralyzed. So I think he had to have some form of control too. Now, afterward, he calmly showered, trimmed his beard. You know, that's important when you kill people. Dressed in his jeans and work boots. He took his bloody clothing and the rifle, which he wrapped in a pillowcase, went out to his car and drove into Brooklyn, where he disposed of the evidence in a storm drain. He then returned to work reported to work at his grandfather's Buick dealership around 6 a.m. To further establish his alibi, he tried calling home several times while at work when his father didn't show up. He left around noon, acting as if he was bored with nothing to do at work, which was pretty common for him. And he called his girlfriend, Sherry, to let her know they wanted to stop and see her. He arrived at her house at 1:30, and he just casually mentioned he couldn't get a hold of his family.
Well, if you couldn't get a hold, why didn't he call the police or a
Or
neighbor?
go home.
Or go home. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he called from the house just to show her that he couldn't get a hold of him.
Yeah. Oh, true.
So then he took her shopping, and afterward they drove to Bobby's house, and he again expressed concern with not being able to get a hold of his family. He told Bobby and his girlfriend they thought it was weird because he had driven by the house and all the cars were there. So Butch then asked Bobby if he's going out later, and he said he's going to take a nap and then go to Henry's bar around 6.
If you're that concerned, why didn't you go home? Why'd you go shopping?
Here's the thing though. I mean, you can't get a hold of a family member like now. They're not answering their cell, their phone's dead, whatever. You go about your day. But what's weird is that you don't drive by the house.
He did. He drove by the house.
It's weird. Yeah.
But then didn't go in. Right.
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 Yeah, that's weird. So then Butch spent the rest of the afternoon visiting friends, drinking, and taking heroin. He arrived at Henry's around 6 and once again expressed his concern about his family. He told Bobby that he thought he'd go to the house and see what was going on. He explained before he left that he was going to have to break a window because he didn't have his keys. So Bobby's like, do what you got to do, dude. You know, it's okay.
Now, why would you explain it? I don't
Right.
have to break through the window.
Like, to me, that's just weird. He's being
Just
weird.
go. Yeah.
Mhm. So that's when he returned at 6:30 yelling for help. Okay, so by 8:45 the next morning, Butch was read his rights and the questioning was intense, and they pressured him saying it just didn't add up. There was no mob hit. His story was falling apart. So he put his head in his hands and said, "Give me a minute." They kept pressuring him, and finally he said, "It all started so fast. Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast." So he showed them where he disposed of all the evidence, and they went and they found the clothes. So this is a rifle. They did discover it.
It looks like it's at their house.
Uh,
They found it at the house.
no, they found it where he disposed of the clothes and stuff. And then this is a crime scene of them starting to remove the bodies because the house was black. So that's not, yeah, he disposed of it in a drain in Brooklyn.
Mm.
Okay. Oh, and then this is him being arrested right here. So I can imagine what the cops thought, you know, especially back then. I don't think killing your entire family was, you know, normal. It's not even normal today.
Not common.
Butch tried to change his story several times, and a lot of people, even to this day, believe there was more than one killer because of just how they were all laying face down. Like, how did he control all those people? It's like, you know, 6 people. But after reading about this case, I personally think he did it alone. Yeah. And his trial started October 14th, 1975. Butch tried to act like he was insane. Like they showed him a picture of his mom. He's like, I don't know who that is. After seeing his father's picture, he said he killed them all in self-defense because they were going to kill him, including his little brother. He also said that he was God. So the prosecutor pressed him about the murders themselves. And listen to this. So the prosecutor's really going after him, right? He said, you felt good at the time? The prosecutor asked. Yes, sir. I believe it felt very good. Is that because you knew they were dead? Because you had given them each 2 shots, which isn't accurate. He didn't kill each one of them twice or shoot them twice. I don't know why. I can't remember that, honestly. Do you remember being glad? I don't remember being glad, but I remember feeling very good. Good.
Didn't he later use that he was possessed?
Mm-hmm.
Possessed or hearing?
Hearing things telling him to kill his family. That was after Amityville Horror.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he even blamed his sister. Like he said that him and his sister had both decided to kill their parents because his sister, Dawn, and him hated their dad and their mom. And that they were going to do it together and they were going to recruit some friends. Well, then Dawn, he decided he didn't want to do that. And then Dawn just started killing them. And then he got mad at her and killed her. So he blamed Dawn for killing everybody else. And then he killed her because she killed the family. It's bogus. There's no evidence.
Wasn't there incest between him and his sister?
I didn't read that anywhere.
In the book, that's what it has in there.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know of any of that. Interesting. No wonder he had to annihilate them all.
I don't know if it's true.
Now, Butch threatened the prosecutor's life on the stand. And the prosecutor was really worried the jury would think that he was insane because that was his main goal. And he wanted to show that he wasn't. And so he really pushed him. So sure enough, the jury's first vote came back 10-2 with 2 jurors unsure if he was insane. And I can understand that because it's insane to kill your entire family. But the point is insanity. If you know that you did wrong, you're not insane.
Right.
And so after reviewing the transcript of Butch's testimony, they returned with a guilty verdict to 6 counts of second-degree murder. And he was sentenced to 25 years and he's still alive. So this is the latest photo of him right
He
here.
was only sentenced to 25 years?
To life. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
There he is.
Is he still alive?
Yeah. Yeah, that's him on the screen.
But I mean, is that in jail still?
Yeah. Yeah, he's still in jail. He looks really weird and skinny.
Yeah, he does.
You know, some of those friends of his should be alive also.
Mm-hmm. Probably
Right.
so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as far as the type of family annihilator, I think he's definitely socially unstable and disappointed. But quite frankly, I just think he was abused and he became an abuser. Plus, he was extremely narcissistic. And I also think he was a psychopath, no empathy
Right.
at all. He was very manipulative too. And he's on like heroin and amphetamines and alcohol. So there's no telling how his brain was. Now, they did find a motive though. And so it might have been tied to some money he had actually stolen from his grandfather's dealership. So he was supposed to deposit over $20,000, but he claimed that on the way to the bank, he was robbed by a mobster.
Him and his mobsters.
Oh my God.
I know. And so the day before the murders, he was supposed to go into the police station and look at mug shots to try to, get the mobster who robbed him. He never showed up because he was the one that stole the murder or the money. And so a lot of people think that he killed his family to get out of that whole thing. So, I mean, yeah, it makes sense to me. Instead of going, possibly being on probation for stealing $20,000, I'll just go murder everybody. You know what I mean?
No, not the entire family though.
Yeah, that's why to me, he's definitely a psychopath, narcissist.
Don't you think though? Maybe his upbringing. I mean,
I think it contributed.
huh?
I think it definitely contributed,
Yeah.
but I also think a lot of people are abused.
Right.
A lot of people are abused, though, some even more severe than him, and they don't kill their entire families. It's like, yeah, kill your abuser if you're needing to get away, but why your little brother? Why your other, siblings? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I personally wonder, too, if some of the motive was him to get the inheritance.
How much was it? Do you know?
I don't know. And it doesn't seem like Big Ronnie was actually that well off. A lot of it was Louise's dad.
Yeah.
But if she's dead and all his siblings dead, does he get all of it when his grandparents died? Like, did he have more people he was going to kill?
Right.
Probably because his grandparents weren't that old, where they'd, be dead in a few years.
Yeah, I don't know. So I want to switch gears a little bit and shift it to the Amityville horror aspect. And I got my opinion. I'd love to hear y'all's opinion, but I want to first share my viewpoint based on a ministry perspective, obviously doing that a lot. So I have met a lot of people, including myself, where I've had strange supernatural things occur. So I definitely know this stuff is real, but my perspective is it's demonic. I don't believe in ghosts. And so ghosts are demons. That's my perspective. I do believe that violence opens the door to the demonic. Okay. But there's some weird things when it comes to the Lutzes. So here's some of the stuff that was going on. So George said that he would wake up every morning at 3:15. And we know that's when everybody was murdered. Okay. They claim to smell strange odors, see green slime oozing out of the walls and keyholes, and then they would experience cold spots in certain areas of the house, which I've experienced cold spots before too. It's like you literally walk into an area and it's like, freezing. And then I've also experienced warm spots. So they felt that. The priest that came to bless the house allegedly heard a voice scream, "Get out." And then he told the Lutzes to never sleep in a particular room of the house, which is where he heard that voice. They also had a nearby garage door opening and closing by itself, an invisible spirit knocking a knife down in the kitchen, a pig-like creature with red eyes staring down at George and his son Daniel from a window, George waking up to his wife, Kathy, levitating off their bed, and sons Daniel and Christopher also levitating off of their beds together. They did admit later that some things were added or exaggerated for the book and the movie. Like when the window came down on the boys' hands and crushed them, that didn't really happen, they said. But they both passed their lie detector tests. Their son Daniel, who recently shared his story in a documentary, which I watched, he was still scared to this day from what happened to him as a kid. It's also apparent that he didn't like his stepdad and he was very strict and harsh. But here's what's interesting. Everyone else, apart from the Lutzes, experienced absolutely no supernatural in that house at all. It was a normal house. So why the Lutzes?
I had thought that the owner after them or before had experienced some stuff and
Well, that's
they've
the
moved out.
Lexus. They were the ones after.
The Lutzes were immediately after, and no one before was in the house except for the DeFeos. But no one, even his friends. So George Lutz's friends, they went to the house after they fled. It was like 28 days they were in the house to pick up some items for them, and they felt absolutely nothing at all.
Maybe they brought it with them or believed it.
And I have a couple thoughts on it that I'll share with you. But this picture right here was one of the pictures taken after, I think it was when those people we were discussing earlier were there. So these are the Kathy and George, okay? And let's see. Let me get back to that picture.
You passed it right there.
That's creepy.
Yeah. So this to me looks like, I'm trying to find little John. It could look like either one of them. And they've analyzed that photo. It has not been doctored, nor has it been touched up.
But again, not ghost, familiar spirits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely a demonic. And then you'll notice it looks like he's wearing PJs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think definitely it opened the door to demonic stuff. But again, why the Lutzes? Okay. Now, before I get into my thoughts, listen to this statement from a Jim and Barbara Cromartie, who purchased the home March 18th, 1977 from the bank, because the Lutzes never went back. They never set foot in that house again. And so they bought it from the bank, and they weren't very happy because of the hordes of tourists searching for supernatural phenomenon afterward. So they made a statement because they sued the Lutzes and several people. They said the quiet village of Amityville, Long Island has been made infamous by a hoax. It will possibly never be the same. It is Long Island's equivalent to Watergate. None of us would be here today if a responsible publisher and author had not given credibility to two liars and allowed them the privilege of putting the word true on a book in which in all actuality is a novel. The credibility of the hoax stems from using a charlatan Catholic priest who has been banned from performing his religious duties by the Diocese of Rockville Center, the equivalent of a disbarment of a lawyer. The charlatan priest has been involved with a complicity to a lie and therefore deserves no credibility and should be dealt with accordingly. Now, Jim and his wife who made the statement, he played in the house as a child. And they were trying to make the home a part of the community again. They knew to them it was not true. But unfortunately, they were forced to move after living there just 10 years because, of all the tourists and all of the phenomenon around it. They couldn't sell it. They couldn't sell the house. No one wanted to buy it. So they moved back in and they lived there until 1987, and not a single supernatural event occurred the entire time they were there. So they sued the Lutzes and they sued the publishers of the book Amityville Horror for millions, claiming that false misrepresentations were made willfully, claiming that, and solely for commercial exploitation. And then they agreed to an undisclosed settlement. So several other families lived in the house as well. They always sold it at a discount because obviously no one's going to buy it for full price. Nothing weird happened to them either. So then it was sold in February 2017 for $200,000 below asking. Over the years, they changed the address and then the creepy eye windows. Okay. Yeah. So this is what it looks like. And they actually had to change the address as well. I think they changed it to 109, but this is the back. So this is the garage the boat house and the door that kept going up and down and the dog and all that. But yeah. And I thought I had a picture of it today in the front as well, but let me see.
Well, that was the redone one, wasn't it?
Yeah, but not the front. It was the back. So this is the side. But see these windows right here? So they were the eye windows back in the day. See?
Yeah.
And they changed them to just the normal because it was those creepy eye windows.
Yeah.
I remember that too, man. That creeped me out, the eye windows. So why did they experience all that stuff? Because just by watching the body language of Daniel, and then I don't put a lot of stock in lie detection tests, but for both of them to pass, they never went back. I mean, people say there was like a financial arrangement with their lawyer, Weber, to just turn it, the horror of the murders into a haunting to make a lot of money.
And they left all their belongings.
Everything.
Yeah,
They took
so
off. I don't think it was a big scheme.
it's sort of credible that they did
And
experience.
even later, you could tell, like, when they were interviewed. I mean, okay, so here's the deal. Daniel Lutz, he said when he was interviewed that George dabbled in the occult. Now, the only proof, though, that he had was some occultic books that Daniel saw on the bookcase and on a table when he was little. They've never been able to confirm that. I know from personal experience, when you start messing with stuff like that, you open a door.
Yeah.
And so if no one else who lived there did that kind of stuff, and George was into that, it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's why they were the only family.
Yeah.
But it's
Could
never
be.
been confirmed. It's never been confirmed. We only have Daniel's word.
Right.
And I
But
think
that's
they're
a
dead.
minor little detail. Like, yeah, there were books of the occult. I remember that. And that's all he remembers. I mean, I believe him because it's such a minor, not thinking about a detail.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the whole thing could be fake. But I'm with you guys. I think some of it was real. And this guy down here, William Weber, he actually sued, I believe, the Lutzes, or testified or something, because he was actually tied to the DeFeos somehow in a legal capacity. But he also said that him and the Lutzes came up with the scheme of the haunting over a glass of wine to make a lot of money. And he was supposed to get a cut from the book, and they never gave him his cut.
I don't know. It sounded like there was a lot of suing going around. I don't know that I believe him either. I did see a documentary once where they said the majority of the book is true, but they did embellish some things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also seen by others, supposedly.
Well, Daniel said that he's the one that saw the pig eyes, and he knows that's real. And, like, there's a book by a man called Frank Hammond, named Frank Hammond. It's called Pigs in the Parlor. And, a lot of the demonic is tied to pigs, the unclean animal thing and all that stuff in the Bible.
Well, also the story of the demons going into the pigs and then going into the...
Yep. And levitating is definitely, so I'm with you guys. I think there were some things, but I definitely think they embellished. I think they probably did enjoy the money, but they were probably awfully scared as well.
Yeah.
And they ended up divorcing later.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's it on the Amityville Horror. So I'm glad we got Eddie Rabbit and Alabama figured out. And I'm glad that y'all think that they kind of look similar, all these people.
All of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Are you going to watch the new movie?
I already did.
Oh, you did? Oh. What'd you
That
think?
wasn't as bad.
Oh, it wasn't?
No. And they changed a couple of things, and, it was a little more suspenseful at the end and stuff.
Well, Ryan Reynolds can make anything okay.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, it can. We just watched a movie called Safe House with him in it, with Denzel Washington. Oh, so good. So good.
I really like Denzel Washington.
Me too. So, any other thoughts? If not, we'll conclude this mini series episode.
No. I think the book name is perfect.
No, for this one. For this
It's perfect.
series.
Amityville.
Horror.
How long's he been in jail?
Since what, 75?
Wonder if he'll ever get out.
No.
Probably not.
So the thing about,
Mhm.
both of the murders were in November too. There truly is such a thing as SAD, the seasonal disorder.
That's true. That's interesting. Now, in my research, most family annihilations occur in August.
What?
Which we'll get into. But yeah, most occur in August. Isn't that weird?
Wonder why.
It is a very expensive month if you got kids.
Or before school, do it before school expenses.
Oh, yeah, I thought that too.
Oh, my word.
Well, some
Yeah.
of this I'm not going to put on there, so.
Out.
Outline of a Murder is a Mr. Joseph production. What do you think, Joseph?